Go.
Okay, I guess we're going to call the meeting to order at 9:30 this morning. And I guess the first thing would be the approval of minutes from the last meeting. Do we have anyone who would like to start the approval?
I'll move to approve the meetings. Tony Parkridge.
Okay, and who will second it?
Second, Louise
Okay.
Neidorf.
Thanks, Louise.
Look,
You're
it's
welcome.
Louise. Look, it's Louise.
So
Yeah, still here.
Okay, so the minutes are approved from our last meeting, and I guess that we can see, are there any additions to the agenda? Anyone wanted to add anything? Okay, we'll move on to officer reports. I, as chair, do not have anything to report. How about you, Jeannie?
Jeannie might be having some issues with her new computer, so I will
Okay.
be reading whatever chats she puts through.
All right. Mary Ellen, do you have anything?
No, thank you.
Okay. Yes, then, did Jeannie respond to anything? I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Okay, should we move on then to CCS staff report?
Mine will be brief. So as usual, let me just make sure I've got my link copied here. We will use the sign-in document as our role for the meeting. So if you have time during the meeting or after to enter your name in by your library, I will also email this out to the group after the meeting too if you don't get a chance to open the link right now. And then the second thing I just wanted to mention, I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that Rails delivery staff will be joining CCS for a webinar at near the end of September, so in just about a month. So it'll take place Thursday, September 22nd from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. They're planning on giving a short presentation all about their delivery services and then answer any questions. I'm going to slip the registration link into the chat. It is on the Rails L2 calendar. In the description on L2, there is also a link to a form. If you have a specific question for Rails and you want to get the question to them ahead of time, just so they've got time to prep or look into anything, you can absolutely submit it ahead of time. These questions will be submitted anonymously. I do ask for, I think, an email just in case I need to follow up and clarify before I pass the questions on. But there is the link to the event. If you haven't registered yet and are interested, please register. The webinar will be recorded and posted online if you're not able to attend. So if you're free, keep that in mind. And that was all that I had for my staff update for my report.
Okay. Hopefully I'm doing this right, who knows? But anyway, we'll move on now to old business. And I guess we wanted to do review and approval of the drafted lost and paid ILL document. Is that correct?
That is correct. And that is me again. So, so if you weren't here for our last meeting, we decided to postpone the vote approving some drafted procedures on how to manage lost and paid items, interlibrary loan items, because we had a really great question about modifying the price of the item. Now, once an item is billed or manually marked as lost, we cannot edit the price of the item. And I unfortunately have not found a workaround or a way around this. And so during this portion, there's a couple of things related to price that I just wanted to mention or pursue, I guess. So first is the default price of the interlibrary loan item. We briefly talked about this at last meeting. every library can set a default price. So if there is nothing specified in the item record, if the item does end up being billed, Polaris will apply that default. We can specify a default price for anything with a material type of ILL material and ILL AV. This also means that you can set it to like maybe a more appropriate amount in the way of the bill down if you need to. So at the last meeting, we were talking about how a lot of defaults are like set at $25, but frequently you'll get the interlibrary loan items of like textbooks that are worth 100, say. So we can absolutely set a higher default price for those ILL items. If you're interested in that, open a help desk ticket. It's a very quick process to update. The second thing I just wanted to mention with this is that I will be updating the out of system ILL how-to pages on our website, just to include information about modifying the price of an ILL item once you receive it. So if you want to work in adding the specific price of the item to your receiving procedures, the how-tos will include instructions for that. And then third are the actual loss and pay procedures that we're talking about today. So I have added a small section to the drafted procedures to explain the situation with the item price. The remaining steps, however, have not changed from the previous draft. So with this, I'm going to share my screen real quick. And hopefully you can see the draft, my page. So just to kind of review the purpose of these procedures, since an interlibrary loan item record cannot be deleted by itself, it's the request record that needs to be deleted. These procedures are going to walk you through how to remove the request record and subsequently the item record. And this is for when you have a lost and paid or lost and waived interlibrary loan item. So our draft procedures now start out with the addition, kind of like the limits we're working with in terms of that item price. So it gives a brief visual of where you can locate the price field in an item record. And like I said, the receiving instructions on the how-to page will have an update with how to adjust this section. After that, you have the step-by-step on what to do with lost and paid or lost and waived item records. So the basic steps here, which again have not changed, are basically you're going to check the item in, continue through any blocks or alerts. And then when presented with the lost and paid dialog box, you'll keep the fees as is. So instead of refunding, instead of credit, you'll leave as is. And then once you click continue, that item will be checked in. And now the ILL request record is in a state where it can be returned and deleted. So those are the basic steps for how to remove a lost and paid or lost and waived interlibrary loan item. So with that, are there any questions around these procedures? Make sure I'm checking chat here too.
Eiko, forgive me if you did say this. If you do adjust the price of the ILL item in the item record before it automatically rolls over to lost, is that price reflected or do you have to manually charge it to the patron's account?
No, that's a great question. Is whatever is going to appear in the item record is the amount that's going to be billed to the patron. So if you do adjust the price of the ILL item before it's billed, the patron will get that item record price.
Louise?
Yes, is there a problem? We charge the price, we changed the price when we know it's been lost. And I can adjust that on the patron's account and change the price there. Is there a problem with that? That's what the patron would get billed for and that they would pay. And once I go through the process, it shows in the account 0. So is it a problem just to change the price when we go through the billing process?
I don't think so. Walk me through that, Louise. So, so the patron gets billed first, and then
Yeah.
you.
What happens is if the patron loses an interlibrary loan item and has to pay for it, I usually contact the lending library, get the price, and then we have a default price of $100. So I just go in and changed the amount that the library gives me, and that's what the patron pays.
I don't see a problem with that.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that what we were doing is fine. Thank you.
I have another question because that sparked something else. And I should know this. If an item is manually charged, like we've established that it's lost, does that lost item still appear in the daily billing report, or is that only items that are automatically charged?
I'm going to double check that. The daily billing report should include anything that's billed.
Okay.
But let me double check that for you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? With that, are we ready to approve the procedures as drafted? I will turn it back over to Stephanie then for the motion and second.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve? Okay, Carrie? Okay, and a second?
Second.
Okay, thanks, Louise. Okay, so it's approved. And now we'll move on to how does your library manage multiple parts, such as kits? And I believe this is you again.
Yeah, I'm gonna launch this off. So this is another question that came up at the last ILL meeting that we had a table. And it was just I think centered around managing kits or circulating pieces that have multiple parts. And I think one of these specific questions that came up was if a kit was returned to a different library. So assuming there's still interest in this question, I went ahead and added it to the agenda. So I can kind of start out with my own experience if to kind of get the discussion going. So at a previous library work that we did have, you know, like these like Rubbermaid kits and Rubbermaid totes. And we obviously did not want them returned to another library. So the way we managed that, our kits had very neon and very obnoxious labels attached to like pretty much every face of the box saying must return to XYZ library. And additionally, whatever desk they were checking out at was also required to make sure the patron understood it could only be returned to our location. Turning it around to others, how do your libraries manage?
That is exactly what we do here at Fremont, you know, is yes, it needs to be returned to our library. I was also wondering like how many people actually will send kits like that out. I know we've had like games come here from other libraries with pieces, and then our patron loses a piece, and then, you know, we have to go through that whole thing. So I was just really wondering how many people actually let their kits go out. We don't. It's only for Fremont. Well, anybody who comes in the library could take it out, but they do need to return it here. And I think we really don't have a problem when we also like label, just like you said, that in big letters and says, do not put in drop. But of course they don't always listen to that, and they come in the drop and open up and yeah, but you know, because they're supposed to be returning them to the desk.
We do the same thing at Highland Park. It's, someone can come in and check out the kit, but we do not send out the kit through the delivery service. And then in turn, they're supposed to, luckily ours are big enough, they can't fit them into the book drop. So they bring them to the desk, and then it's not checked in automatically. Then it goes to someone in Circ, and then they count the pieces to make sure everything's there. But that's how we do it.
We're similar to Crystal Lake. We're similar to Highland Park. We people from any library can come to our library and check out our STEM kits, but we want them returned at Crystal Lake. However, you can't, in our experience, you can't stop a patron from dropping it off at another library. And we get kits from Algonquin Library. And I think I had brought this up at a previous meeting. I think it was me, because I wondered if our kits are returned to other libraries in the consortium, if the staff at those libraries are counting the pieces before they send them on, or are they just checking them in and putting them on the van? So that was one of my questions. And whether the expectation, like if we have Algonquin kits that return to our library at Crystal Lake, is the expectation that we will count all those pieces and follow up with the patron ourselves?
Go ahead, Amy.
For Wilmette, our Library of Things are only available to Wilmette patrons only. So it's a little bit more helpful getting them back from Wilmette patrons, since that's all that we allow to check those out.
And to answer your question, Julie, at Highland Park, if something's returned, we do count the pieces before we send it. Same thing, like I know, like with those Bob books, you know, that like there'll be 27 in a little kit, and then the teacher's card. So we try to always make sure that everything is counted. I can say that I do that, and then circulation is supposed to do it, but sometimes I'm sure it slips through.
I have a chat from Jeannie here. Lake Forest does not send out children's kits unless the patron comes into the library. Adult items are local patrons only. And Glenview says they're looking at the item info in the container or a bag and counting all the pieces.
Go ahead, Amy.
So we count all the pieces at circulation when the items are returned. We take a look at the item before we send it out. Also, we have like a Nintendo DS or our other things that need charging. We take them when they come in, we take them to our technology center, and they charge things or do whatever they need to do with certain items and then give them back to us.
The one thing that Fox River Valley differs from what's already been said is that we don't leave the items checked out on the person's account. We have individual staff who make sure that the items are returned complete. So we have a lot of adult craft kits that would be like yarn or thread or paper. And we leave it up to their individual determination to see if that needs to be replenished. We just mark everything as repair. We kind of treat all of our Library of Things the same. It's marked as repair so that it's not available, but if that person who checks those items is on vacation for a week, we don't want that patron to be like, why is it still on my account? But everything else, we pretty much follow almost everything that's been said already.
Does anyone else have anything that they'd like to say on this topic?
Oh, one other chat from Jeannie. Items are sanitized before going back out to patrons, and the memory is also cleared.
Right. I guess if that's all, we can move on then to new business. And we had a question from McHenry about first search portal.
So I will say I submitted this. I had a McHenry staff member, I think from outside of ILL, send me these questions directly. So Lori, I didn't want to put you on the spot here or anything. But there were some questions about the first search portal, and I wasn't able to answer these too well. I don't work in first search much, so I was hoping the group would have some insight here. And so the questions received were like, are any other libraries having issues with results using the new first search portal, and like specifically with the quantities in the results? So I'm hoping, I don't know if anyone can speak to this or share their experiences. Louise, please.
Go ahead, Louise.
Okay, this may not be the problem, but we have found that first search, when we get the OCLC numbers, they're usually indicating that one library has it or it's out of the country. I don't know if this is what they're talking about. What happens in the new first search, I think, is that the most recent OCLC number that's given is not necessarily the one that has all the copies so when you look at the first search, I'm sorry, because I use only WorldCat, so I'm stumbling around with this, but the first search, the first citation you get, and that it has all these libraries, but if you put down the last OCLC number that's given, it only is maybe one library or whatever. It is not the correct OCLC number. There is a workaround that a couple of our reference staff know about. But as I said, in ILL, we use WorldCat. And so we sort of just disregard the OCLC numbers we're given most of the time. Now, I don't know if this is the problem that they're talking about.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about too, Louise, is that we have a lot of certain staff search different ways at desk, and we do have some who do search through the first search, and it will show that, like you're saying, that the item is available at all of these libraries, but it truly isn't, because it could be the electronic source, it could be the large print, it could be anything. So it really gives a false record. So, I mean, I guess my suggestion, if the person that is asking this question is doing the ILL searches for McHenry, then they might want to, like Louise says, go through WorldShare versus the first search, because you do get a lot of false hits on it.
Yeah, well, WorldCat, and it will give you, yeah, it will give you the correct citation. It usually will get one OCLC number with one library, and then when we do our own search in ILL, we'll get maybe 4 or 5 citations of the item. So there is a discrepancy. I don't know what technically how that is, but it's WorldCat that will give you the correct citation. If that's the issue.
It is basically our public services is the ones that generate the requests, and then they give them to me. And so I just use the number they give me. And that's where we're finding that a lot of times there's sort of weird, like, you know, it's only available in Denmark, or and so then I'm going back and looking at it again, and we're trying to kind of eliminate some of the double work. And, you know, but it's only happened when they changed that portal.
There is a reference staff member, if you want to get a hold of me, I will, that pretty well knows how to get around that. I'll check with the person to see if I can give out the name, and maybe you can contact her. But I do know one staff member that knows how to work around, you know, get the correct OCLC number.
excuse me, and then kind of going off of that for the libraries who search for search, and this might be a question for Louise's colleague as well. Does anyone have a workaround to search Illinois libraries first?
No, I mean, usually what you do is, I mean, the way that we search is then you click on state or regional, and then it pulls up your records that way. But through first search, there is, like Louise said, I know that there is a way. I have to like look at it, and then physically, then I can see like there is a way that you can click on it, and then it will limit it. But again, you do run into the problem where electronic resources are lumped in with the books, because if you look a lot of times in the normal search, it'll have ebook with it, but at least you can differentiate, you know, like that it is an ebook or it is
Right.
a book. But with first search, it lumps them all together. So a lot of times you're getting an electronic resource, which then can't be linked.
And I also, is there any advantage of just looking at Illinois? We look at the whole country, and many times, especially a lot of the Illinois libraries, some of the universities are charging, whereas out-of-state libraries are not. So I don't really try to go just with Illinois libraries because, you know, it's so fluid. And you know, sometimes we get the mail faster than we get rails and sometimes not, you know, so I don't personally see an advantage of just looking for Illinois libraries. But that's just my opinion, so.
We have patrons who don't want to have to, because we charge them the postage to send it back. And so we have patrons who just, they don't want to pay anything for it. So there's the advantage to just checking to see if it's in state. And I don't think I've ever had an Illinois college or university charge me.
I have.
So,
University of Chicago has
Oh,
sent
wow.
us a bill. So send us a bill several times for $25. And fortunately, we state in our, even in our in-state forms, please advise before sending, you know, please advise costs, and then we'll check with the patron. So I got out of all of the invoices just because it stated, please advise, but there are a couple, University of Chicago, I've gotten several invoices from. So just as a, you know.
Sure.
The other thing to pay attention to now on it is, like, even though you have that in your, like, you're saying that please advise of charges, there is like a little note, if you look underneath, you need to put 0.0, because otherwise it says if you do not put that in there, that you are responsible for the charges,
Yes.
even though you have that. So that's a new thing that they added to it. So every time that you do request something out of state, you want to make sure that you have 0 in there if you don't want to pay anything, because otherwise they can hold you responsible
Right.
for the charges, unfortunately.
Yes, and do note that a lot of the universities in Illinois have a price down there. Sometimes they charge, sometimes they don't, but more and more since the pandemic, I've noticed that they have a cost 25, even if they're in Illinois. So, but yes, you have to include the 0, you know, the cost.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Does anyone want to add anything else to this discussion, please? Okay, we'll move on. And actually, speaking of Rails delivery, that's what we're going to go to. I don't know if any of you have been experiencing, but I'm finding that a lot of my true interlibrary loans, I get a bulk on Monday and a bulk on Friday, and very few throughout the week. And I've kept a record of it, and I've sent it to Rails, and they thank me all the time, but it doesn't seem to improve the situation. But sometimes I'll have something that was still 10 days, and then I might have something that was still just 2 days, and they come on the same day. And they're, you know, and they're in the same library a lot of times. So I'm just wondering if anyone else is finding that they're getting bulks of requests coming into in their delivery bins. No, so I've been blacklisted. Is that why it's happening to me? I see. Okay. Yes, Amy?
Occasionally we get something, particularly U of I. We count on them for a lot of our stuff, and they're usually pretty quick, but every once in a while it'll be 10 days or so before we get it. We've even had longer than that, to the point that it was the question mark, if it's received or not. So
Yeah.
it does happen on occasion.
Yeah, because like on this Monday, I ended up with 17 ILLs that came in. And then Friday before I had 10. And then now all week I've had a whopping, since Monday, 2.
Our
So-
bulk is on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and we get the same thing a lot. That's when a lot of our bulk ILLs come in.
Yeah, okay. Mary Ellen?
So what I'm experiencing is a lot of stuff, we'll send it out and it'll come back to us in 2 days. So we don't know whether, sometimes people will be really nice and say, this was a quick turnaround, but most of the time I think it's just not getting to the library.
Glenview had a chat that most of their items come in Friday as well.
Okay. Maybe this is something then that we should address at that meeting that they're having with Rails. And go ahead, Louise.
I'm sorry, Mary Ellen, sometimes you can double check the OCLC record to see if it was ever received and returned, because then you know the turnaround of a couple of days that the library didn't get it. If they haven't received it and then returned it.
Yeah, so sometimes we end up having to call them, but
Yeah,
we're so short-staffed right now that it's time.
no,
a while. Yeah,
I understand. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
that's all right.
And then Algonquin says that they have most of their items arriving on Tuesday. So it's good. I'll make a note of the question, send it off to Rails, just saying that some of our libraries are noticing their interlibrary loan items coming in on certain days of the week, and maybe they can highlight or give context, like their process behind the scenes. Give some insight why.
Okay.
I wonder if they're short-staffed too. I wonder if they're experiencing some slowdown over there. I'm not making excuses.
No. Don't know, but anyway, hopefully it will improve. That's all I have to say. It gets a little frustrating. I also receive a lot of Highwood items, and Highwood receives a lot of our items. And the tricky thing there is that Highwood doesn't get delivery every day. So sometimes if our items go to them, then it might be a week before it actually gets corrected and sent to us.
We also have that problem like with Wakanda. We get a lot of Wakanda stuff,
One thing that I've noticed is when we did the CTS tour a long time ago, we found that they actually deliver to multiple places, like Winnetka right before our library Wilmette. So we tend, if something gets fallen off the truck or forgotten, we get Winnetka's items, or Lincolnwood's the next one after Wilmette. So we'll get a lot of Lincolnwoods because they misstack them. So I don't know if you're talking like in the same bin or a bin of their things. Sometimes because CTS delivers to Walgreens, Jewel, Mariano's, the driver kind of may move some stuff around. That could be one of the things. And I know Laconia will be doing a delivery of actually the Rails facility out in Fountaindale. We haven't set a date for that, but that will be coming up too, which is, I guess, like 15 minutes from Fountaindale. So I can send out the group if you're interested in doing a tour. It's still in the works.
Diego, this is an unfair question for you, but you're getting it anyway. I know Rails has asked CCS libraries to report if incorrect deliveries are made to us. But do you happen to know, like, what action are they taking on that? Do they address the individual staff member who did that? I mean, it's been a while ago, but one day we had ILLs from like 6 different libraries all in the same bin for us, and they weren't even close. It wasn't like a Fox River Grove, Fox River Valley type thing. It was, I don't know how much stock is like placed in that. Let us know. Okay, well then what is the action being taken then by Rails? Because I honestly don't know what they could do besides just know that it's still going on.
Right, right. I don't have any insight to that, but I'm gonna add that to the question list because I'd like to know
Well,
too.
I also feel like, I mean, obviously all these things have to go to CTS and be sorted. And obviously, I'm sure their turnover there is quite large. So usually that's, it seems like for a while things are going all right. Like recently here, we have been getting a lot of Wakanda in our bin, a lot of McHenry in our bin, just probably, or just, some of it is writing. If people are not writing their letters, nice, like MJK, again, J's can look like U. So, I mean, that's a normal, but again, I just assume that they probably have a big turnover of employees that have to like learn and sort through all that stuff. So again, writing neatly, I probably is one of the things, but then we must have dyslexic people that W and U, W and M, I mean, look the same.
Got a chat from Indian Trails. They used to get a lot of Morton Grove items, and they sent pictures of the labels, which were clearly written, and it did help. And it's good to know.
I do the same thing. They asked me to send, because that first they questioned if I was really receiving them. So I scan and send all of them that I received that day for them. And then they thanked me. And then I know a couple times, like they've told me that a supervisor will be with the person who is doing our bins because it really got out of hand for a while. So, but I mean, I see improvement for a while and then boom, it happens again. And it's kind of happening again. And that's why I'm not trying to be annoying, but if you see me write out Huntley, I write that out because for some reason, HUK, HPK, we get a lot of that. And then the other weird one is Prospect Heights, which is PHK, and we're HPK. So there could be, you might be onto something that there is a dyslexic person there. So,
Well,
but anyway.
the P's are definitely cursed because we got PAK, PHK, and PRK. So often those, and that's, vaguely understandable, I guess,
I just
but
write
yeah,
out
so don't be a member of the P brigade. That's
on all of the things that I send, I put the code, and then underneath it, I write the name of the library. Everything. It takes an extra 10 seconds for me to do it. And I mean, I don't know if there's any issue otherwise, but I just find it a little more, hopefully then, even if they can't quite make out what I've written, if they see I wrote Fremont under MUK, then like, oh, okay, it does have to go to Fremont.
I do know, like from that tour that Kim was mentioning a couple of years ago, I don't think my brain can keep up with that at times with all the, items in each hand.
Could be that I Love Lucy with the chocolate.
That is a good analogy, yes.
Okay, are there any more comments or anything? We're moving quickly through this agenda today. So are there any other things that people want to discuss?
We have the item from Jeannie about Skokie materials.
Yes, I missed that one. Sorry about that.
Hi, good morning. I spoke with Samra, who was at Skokie Library. Skokie Library's OCLC symbol is IHG. And what she asked me to do was, if you have items that you've checked out to her through the OCLC, she's only a part-time person, so she's not really able to monitor and reconcile every item on a regular basis. So she's really relying on the lending institution to help her out. And she said if the item appears to be overdue, if you could just push the recall button for her, and then she can follow up. Her patrons get periodic emails from Sierra when the items are overdue, but that doesn't mean that they return the item. It just means they've gotten a notice. So she just asked if you click that recall button, and her symbol again is IHG. The libraries that currently have items out to Skokie are Des Plaines, Evanston, Dundee, Fremont, Glencoe, Glenview, Grays Lake, Highland Park, Huntley, Indian Trails, Lake Villa, Niles, Northbrook, Palatine, Park Ridge, and Winnetka, Round Lake, and Zion. So they hit just about everybody, but she's just there a couple of days a week, and she would really appreciate it. That's all I have. Thank you.
I would just point out that once you've hit recall, you lose the ability to give them a renewal.
Yes, that is true. You can't do the renewal. But this just helps her keep track, because there is someone at the library that looks for all the recalls on a daily basis, but she's only there a couple of days a week to actually transfer the items back and forth.
And then, Jeannie, is she asking libraries to recall items that are overdue, or all items?
No, just the like a long overdue. That way they'll have an indication of what's up. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, is there any other discussion, please? Go ahead, Louise.
I just would like to bring up, would libraries please change, we have turnover in staff. Would you please change the CCS contact people? We use that to contact for missing in transit and various things. So if you'll just, when you get a new manager or someone on the top that should receive the email notices about missing in transit, etc., if you would just update it in CCS, in the CCS website. That's all. Thank you.
I love that reminder. All you have to do to update your staff contact list is send in a help desk ticket, and we'll take it from there.
So I guess if we do not have any other discussions, that our next meeting is going to be, is that correct, February 23rd, 2023?
Yeah, so the past couple of years we've been skipping the November meeting since it's right around Thanksgiving.
Okay, so I guess we can call the meeting, adjourn the meeting. Do I have anyone who wants to call? Is that what I'm supposed to say? I don't know.
Well, no one wants to, because we won't see each other till February. So.
I know, another year.
So happy holidays, everyone. Yes.
Thanks.
Yes. And
Well,
another Halloween season without shared Halloween candy stuff.
I just was going to say, Tony, we're going to miss your Halloween candy.
I know. Well, maybe watch for a package to each of you on the van.
That's
I don't
a
think they'd
deal.
appreciate that.
That's a deal.
Yeah, in the van, yes.
Yes. Plus, anything I'd send out would probably end up in Bensonville or something like that.
Right. I was just going to say, send it through Rails.
Well, I so move then that we adjourn.
Okay, does anyone second that?
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, so the meeting is adjourned at 10:14. Thanks, everyone.
Good job,
Thank you.
Stephanie.
Thank
Yay.
you.
Stephanie.